Hello students and welcome back to Shri Gyan Manjri Vidyapeeth, wherein we are learning the subject of social science for standard 10. Students, we have already completed the understanding and explanation of chapter number 1 of history, heritage of India. From the previous few lectures we started with chapter number 8 of the geography section. Name of the chapter is natural resources. Let us take a quick recap of what we learned in this chapter. This is the fifth lecture for chapter number 8, natural resources, in which we have learned in the starting the meaning of resource. We should be very clear with the meaning of resource, utility, all these terminology we should be very clear with. Resource, anything we cannot say as resource, only those things which are useful to human beings in whichever way, either directly or indirectly. That means after going through some process it is useful to us, then only it is called a resource. Meaning and definition that we understood, that man can use with the help of his intellect, intelligence, wisdom, skill, talent, all these things. He makes use of certain things available in the nature, then only it becomes a resource. Otherwise it is not considered as a resource. If that thing is just lying over there, it's of no use to us, then it is not a resource. Next thing is utility. Utility here in this particular chapter, the word utility is used for usability. That particular thing, if we want to use it as a resource, then it should have some usability. For example, we collect lots of stones, we can make a stone wall, right? Then those stones together serve some purpose, and that is why it has usability. Yes, it can withstand rain, it can withstand the storm, it does not allow the wild animals to jump and come inside the compound. It serves some purpose to us, so it has usability. And it should also have the capacity. We use the stones, but even a cow hits the wall with its head and the stone just breaks up into parts, then it's of no use. So it should have some capacity to work for us, to allow us to make some use of it. Then now, so resource, meaning, definition, utility, capability. Now resources can be used as food resource, as raw material, and as energy resource. We classify them according to the ownership. And it can be individual, it can belong to the nation, or it can be global resources. Same way we also classify according to its re-availability. Whether we once take it and it is exhausted, it's never available again, so that is non-renewable. But again and again it regularly replenishes itself, then it is renewable. So re-availability, whether that is again available to us or it's completely over. Next is upon the distribution area. What's the distribution? Universally everywhere available. For example, land, that's available everywhere. General, rare, that means available at some places. And solitary, available at only one or two places. We saw that with the help of examples. Next we learned is planning and conservation. Now this is specifically for the non-renewable resources that we have. For example, forest is there, but if we keep on cutting it down, the forest area will reduce, and that is going to eventually harm us, plus the wildlife that is living over there. It is renewable, but then we should allow, or we should give time to it, so that it can again regenerate itself, or we should help in regeneration. So planning and conservation. Planning is very, very necessary, and we have to conserve it for the future generation also, because whatever we have right now, whatever natural resources that we have right now, we use it extravagantly, and then nothing is available for the future generation. So we got to plan it right now. Steps to conserve resources. How to conserve resources? One of the ideas that we took is that some resources, they are exhaustible, so we should always try to find out how much we have, how sparingly we should use, or if that resource can be replaceable, right? We can use something else which we have so that the actual resources continue for a longer time. Then we learnt about resource planning. Yes, whatever things are necessary for resource planning, that we learnt. Then we learnt about the types of soil. Yes, first we learnt about soil formation, how soil is formed. Yes, what are the factors that are related in formation of soil? For example, wind, water, these are the factors, climate, the area, the topography. All these things, they are very, very interesting, and they affect the soil formation. So how soil is formed, then types of soil. Indian Council of Agricultural Research, that is ICAR, has divided the soil types of India into 8 types. All right, out of that we learned 2 of them. One is alluvial soil, another one is black soil. Now we continue with the rest of the lecture, today's lecture. The name laterite. Now we are going to learn about the 3rd type of soil, that is laterite soil. Now what is the meaning of laterite? Laterite is derived from, that word is taken from the Latin. It's a Latin word. So it is broken up into 2 parts, later and ite. So later means a brick. Brick, we know it is brownish, reddish in color. Yes, so just like a brick, you can find a slab also, right, of laterite rock, right? So it can be of a brick shape, or you can also turn it into a slab. So the name laterite is derived from the Latin word later, which means a brick. It is red in color due to iron oxide. The presence of iron makes the color of the soil red. That is why laterite soil is red in color. It is quite different from another type of soil, that is red soil. When we come to it, we will know it. When this soil becomes wet, it becomes smooth like butter, and when it is dry, it becomes very hard. Now, this is a typical quality of the laterite soil. When rain comes, or when the soil becomes wet, it becomes quite sticky and slimy, right? So the soil becomes wet, it becomes quite smooth like butter, but at the same time, when the soil dries up, the moisture goes away from the soil, this soil really becomes very, very hard to break. So it's quite laborious to work in the farm with this type of soil. Now the first important thing, how that soil is formed. So it is formed due to the change of dry and moist climate, and due to the prevention of silica based material. Now how is this soil formed? This soil is formed because continuous change of dry and moist climate. All of a sudden the sun is up for quite a long number of days, so the soil becomes dry. All of a sudden the climate changes and it rains. So sudden change in continuous change in the climate, or in the dry and moist climate, forms this type of soil. And also silica based material is prevented, right? Now we know most of the soil, most of the earth, the minute particles which we call silica, yes, that is the base. We go to the seabed, or we go to the, or we come to the land area, most of the base is silica. So silica based material is quite absent in this, and that is why proper formation of soil is not happening. This soil has developed in the higher areas of the peninsula plateau of India, in the states like Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Odisha. So next important point, where it is available. It is available in most of the southern peninsula, which is quite raised up. Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh and Odisha. The soil, now what does that soil contain? Which are the important nutrients available, which are the important minerals available, and the soil does not have particular minerals. That means it is deficient. So we should also know that the soil contains what? Because it is red in color, that red color is because of the presence of iron oxide. So contains more of iron more of potash and more of aluminum. So most of the southern region, they are rich in aluminum because this soil contains aluminum. The soil is less fertile because it misses something. What are they? We know iron, potash and aluminum is present, but then it does not help that much in growing crops, more crops, because what the crops need, minerals and nutrients, that is absent in the soil. So the soil is less fertile, but still with taking good care of the soil by giving it chemical fertilizer artificially made in the factories, yes, chemical fertilizer factories, we can replenish the soil with whatever is missing. So you can take, with proper irrigation, we can take some crop of cotton, paddy, that is rice, ragi, that is one type of millet, sugarcane, tea, coffee, because some of these crops, they require that particular type of climate and that particular type of soil. So you'll find tea and coffee, cashew growing abundance in the southern states, can be grown after using fertilizer. These crops also need something which the soil is missing. So you got to give that with the help of chemical fertilizer, then you can get all these crops. Now, this is a pic of how this laterite soil looks. Yes, you can see red in color and you can literally make out slabs or bricks out of it, right? So, this is the way the soil looks like, and that is why the name is there, laterite, looks like a brick. Now we come to the next type of soil, that is desert soil. The soil is sandy and infertile. Now we know desert soil, it grows nothing except some thorny bushes, thorny trees, nothing grows over there. There should be a reason. First reason is, of course, the soil is quite dry, and the second reason is the desertic areas, they receive very, very less rain or absolutely no rain, right? Because of that, the soil becomes quite dry and it becomes sandy. Nothing can grow in sand, because sand will always have soluble salts. Yes, if salts are present, it does not allow the growth of crops. So these are many reasons for that. The soil is sandy and then it is infertile. It contains more dissolved minerals. Yes, more of dissolved minerals which are not that much effective, salts, etc., which are not effective for the growth of crops. This type of soil is seen in the area where the climate is arid or semi-arid. Arid means dry, desertic. Yes, that means semi-arid means semi-dry area. Dry regions are those regions which receive very less rainfall or absolutely no rainfall at all. For example, you go to Jaisalmer, Barmer, these are the areas in Rajasthan where hardly 2 inches of rainfall, that is the annual rainfall for them. What we receive in our region, that is above 100 centimeter. There it's hardly 2 inches over there per year, right? So the soil is completely dry, it does not contain moisture. And one thing more, when the rain falls, most of the rain just flows away because the soil does not have the capacity to allow the water or the rain water to go inside, penetrate, seep into the soil. So with a little bit of rain, what happens? The sandy particles, they stick together and make the top surface so hard. That means it does not allow penetrate water, percolate water, and that is why the remaining rainwater just flows away. It does not go down in the soil. So it remains dry. Now, where are the areas in India where this type of soil is found? Rajasthan, Haryana, southern Punjab. Now these are the areas which are touching Rajasthan. Most of them, they have this type of soil. In Gujarat, where do we find this type of soil? We know the area touching Rajasthan, that is Kutch Bhuj area. These are the areas. Kutch is also small. It's considered what is the name of the desert in Gujarat? That is the smaller Thar desert. Yes, Thar desert is the bigger one, and that is in Rajasthan. We have desert of Kutch, the smaller one. In Gujarat, this type of soil is found in Kutch and some parts of Saurashtra. Some parts of Saurashtra, including us, some of the areas, they are totally dry, totally sandy, salty, saline. So these are the areas where don't get any crop. With little bit of irrigation facilities, some crops can be taken, like millet, jowar can be cultivated in this soil, because millets, they don't require that much water. So literally millet can grow anywhere. For example, bajra, they don't require, if they get one rain, and even if they don't get any rain, then also they can survive and give a little bit of crop. So millet, jowar, etc. can be taken with a little bit of irrigation facilities. This is a pic of how the sand looks like. These are the sand dunes, right? Because continuously high velocity wind flows in the desertic area, it takes the sand from one side and it drops at another side, making sand dunes over there. So literally the soil keeps shifting from here and there. Next we come to is mountain soil. Now this type of soil is found in the valley and the slopy regions of Himalayas at an altitude of about 2,700 to 3,000 meters. That small area of 300 meters, because 2,700 to 3,000 meters. So this minus this is 300 meters. In this 300 meters you find mountain soil, because as you go higher you will find the snow line, right, where snow remains continuously present throughout the year. You will find that snow line. So trees, they find it quite difficult to grow, and moreover these are the higher parts of the Himalayas, which is quite rocky. There will be bare mountain peaks with only rocks or a little bit of soil, but the slant and slope will be so inclined that literally trees can't grow over there. So trees have to grow in these parts, 2,700 to 3,000 only. So this is the place, this is the area range where you find mountain soil. Now mountain soil, it will be having forest also, trees also, but because it is uninhabited, because people don't hardly live over there, very few people live over there, very few animals are present over there, and some of them are inaccessible regions. So what happens when trees grow over there? The trees keep falling, leaves keep falling, all of that gets accumulated on the land. Plus the cold that is present throughout the year does not allow the organism to break up the dead and decaying into in its basic form. So you will find a good accumulation of humus. Its layer is very thin and is underdeveloped, because sun rays do not penetrate over there and they are quite slant in these areas. So what happens is, because warmth is needed for the organism, the microorganism, to process upon the dead and decaying, that is absent because of the cold region. So the layer is quite thin and it is not that much developed, it is underdeveloped. This soil is found where? In the higher parts of Assam, Darjeeling, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, Kashmir. These are the areas, mountainous areas having a height of 2,000 to 3,000 meters high. This is the altitude. Altitude means the height. This is the area, this is the place where you find maximum of that mountain soil. Now, so all the things answered. Where is this type soil found? In the valley. What is the altitude required? 2,700 to 3,000. What is the type of soil that we find? It is underdeveloped. Where is it found? Assam, Darjeeling, Uttarakhand, etc. In Himalayas, the soil found at a general altitude in the regions of pine and ched trees. As I said, forest is available over there, but the trees, they shed the leaves and twigs and all that thing keeps on falling, but it does not get enough warmth throughout the year to turn that dead and decaying into perfect humus, or humus. What is humus? Humus is again very fertile for the soil. Yes, you can consider it. It has lots of nutrients and minerals present over there, but it is underdeveloped. So the humus doesn't develop properly, so it is underdeveloped. Now this is the pic of the mountain soil that we have. Steep inclination does not allow the humus together, it is underdeveloped. Yes, the humus does not get very well mixed with the soil. Trees are present over there, trees which can grow on the mountain slopes, on a slant slope also, right? But then continuous rain, continuous snow takes away the humus, so the soil remains underdeveloped. Next we have forest soil. Mountain soil and forest soil, they are different. How are they different? This type of soil is found within the altitude between 3000 meters to 3100 meters, a difference of only 100 meters. That means 2700 to 3000 meters you will find mountain soil. Above that you will find forest soil. Coniferous forests are pine trees, etc., which allow the snow and water to shed quite quickly. Yes, and they will have pine like needles. They are found in Himalayas, Sahyadri, Eastern Ghats, and the Terai region, the bottom part of the Himalayas, right? So this is the usual area where you find it. The surface of the earth is covered with shaded leaves of the trees, and the upper part of land becomes black due to increase in the humus caused due to decaying of leaves. As we discussed in forest soil also, yes, the soil, the leaves and twigs and all the trees, fruits, etc., they keep on falling on the ground. In mountain soil, because of the slant and slope, it becomes very difficult for the humus to gather. But you go above 3000 meters, then a little bit flat area is available, so the humus gets time to develop. But again, you can't have any crop over there at the altitude of 3000 meters, because still it's a mountain, it's quite cold and becomes difficult for the growth of many crops. Now, the top layer of that humus will appear black because humus has formed. Yes, due to the decaying, dead and decaying leaves, etc. So a little bit perfection in humus is found in the top layer. But as you go down, yes, you keep on digging that humus which has accumulated for years. Yes, mind you that these are the areas, altitude, where human beings, it becomes quite difficult for human beings to survive over there. Yes, it's somewhere near the snow line, so it becomes quite difficult. So the humus keeps on getting accumulated. Yes, and as you keep on digging, the upper part looks black, but it changes from black to blue or to somewhere red color while going down, because the humus that I had gathered earlier did not get time to develop, so the color changes. Besides tea, coffee, spices, other crops like wheat, maize, barley, paddy, etc. are taken. The soil is found in limited areas. Some things you can grow over there because humus has developed. So you can take these crops. Tea, coffee, spices, other crops like wheat, maize, barley, etc. They can be taken. Now we come to the last type of soil, that is marshy and peaty soil. This type of soil develops in humid regions due to accumulation of biotic elements. Now let us understand what is a marshy or peaty soil. Where does it get formed? Now for example, the sea is over here and the land starts over here. The land starts over here, right? So you can see there is a little bit curvature over here where then it's a high raised portion. So here what happens, the sea water also comes in. Same way, a river might be emptying its water over here. So fresh water and saline water, both of them get mixed over here, right? Somewhere there is a very gentle slope where the river water or lake water will come over here, but then it will get stagnant. It won't leave this area, but it's because it is low lying area, right, where water gets accumulated. Then what happens is all biotic elements keep on dumping into it and it becomes quite marshy and peaty, right? It becomes quite a marshy type of soil. So these are the soils that we are talking about, and it's available at very few select. For example, we know Sundarban, it's a huge marshy land, right? So this type of soil develops in humid regions due to the accumulation of biotic elements. There is an excess of biotic elements because with the water lots of biotic elements flow over there and they just remain accumulated. So you will find excess of biotic elements, and that also in dead and decaying type, and minerals in such soil, but it shows insufficiency in phosphate and potassium. Nothing can usually grow in such parts because there is lots of accumulation of water, lots of accumulation of dead and decaying vegetation, etc. So what happens is, in that type of marshy soil, you literally cannot have crops because many of the minerals are missing. One of them and is phosphate, another one is potash. Such soil is found at select places, for example, Orissa, West Bengal, coastal Tamil Nadu, central area of northern Bihar, Almora district of Uttarakhand. During rainy season, this land is completely submerged in the water because it's a low-lying area. All the water from the surrounding sides come and gather over there. With it flows lots of vegetation which has been cut off from the nearby trees, grass, etc. Everything comes and flows and gets accumulated over there. So there is lots of water, there is lots of soil, there is lots of vegetation which is decaying over there. Underwater, and when the water recedes, paddy can be grown at it. Now, when the rain will stop, water will find out its way. Either it will flow away or it will seep into the soil. So the soil is still wet. We can use this wet soil to grow paddy. So because paddy needs to be submerged in water, so in such areas few crops can be taken out of that. Paddy is or rice is the one. The soil has very limited extent. It is not found in quite big areas or larger areas because this type of slope or the recession that is found in the ground, yes, the depression that is found in the ground, that is quite less. So what happens is it is available at select places and that also not in great content. This is how it looks. You can see it's all muddy, etc. over here. Water is also there, mud, that is water and soil is also mixed up over here. So maximum you can take crops. We need more water, that is paddy, etc. Otherwise the soil does not have that much importance as far as crops can be taken. Now we come to another important topic of this chapter, that is soil erosion. We talked about how soil was formed. We talked about how there are different types of soil, right? There are 8 types of soil which all we learned, right? Now soil erosion. Soil erosion, the very first point is soil erosion should not happen. Yes, erosion word comes from erode. Erode means to go away, take away, wipe out, right? Soil erosion means to wipe out the soil. Now we know soil, the top soil is the only thing that is fertile and allows growth of vegetation. Now what happens if that is eroded or that is taken away by wind and water? This soil that is below the top soil, yes, if this is the top soil, if you take away the top soil, the remaining soil is quite hard and it does not have humus. It might have minerals, but it does not have humus. It does not have that capacity to retain water, etc. It can be quite hard. The small part or the small quantity of topsoil which was available for growth of crops, etc., that is missing because it has been eroded, right? So the first thing is soil erosion should not happen, right? So now first let us learn the definition of soil erosion. What is soil erosion? Erosion means transportation of land particles from one place to another with the help of moving air and water. Now, good crop is growing over here, maybe it is paddy, maybe it is wheat, and the roots are somewhere over here only, quite near the ground. Yes, it's not far away. What happens when there is flood? When there is flood, what happens? It removes the crop. Yes, it removes the crop, plus it takes away whole of this topsoil and it deposits wherever forward the flood goes away, is it deposits over there. So this area becomes devoid of any, or you do not find the topsoil because it has been removed and taken over to another place. So the transportation of land particles which are on the top, that we call soil, the transportation of land particles from one place to another with the help of moving air and water on the opposite side On the opposite side, we just talked about water. What happens about air? When the soil is dry, when the soil is dry, the wind blows and it takes away the top particles that are lying on, which are quite light in weight, sediments, and they take away with them the air and they deposit it somewhere else. But the sand particles or soil particles are moving from one place to another. This is called erosion. This is called erosion. The soil has been eroded from here and dumped over here. Yes, so this is called soil erosion. Erosion means the transportation of land particles from one place to another with the help of moving air and water. These are the main two factors which erode soil, that is moving air and water. In other words, the faster transportation of particles of surface land to other place by natural forces. Wind and water, both of them are natural forces. Both of them, this one and this one, they are definitions for soil erosion. Now, next is a pic to make you understand what is soil erosion. Now you can see the greenery over here, some crop is growing over here. Well, maybe it's just vegetable, but the soil is growing good crop, right? But rain suddenly happened and whole of the stretch where the crop was growing, because of the flash flood, the land is so much flat that it doesn't have much space to and much slope to go forward. So it goes forward whatever slope is available and it makes quite deep cracks and takes away all the soil, rich soil, fertile soil with lots of nutrients, minerals. It takes away that. Isn't that a loss for the farmer, because the very good soil that he had is now taken away by water. So soil erosion should not happen. This is a very fine example of gully erosion. Erosion of different types. Erosions are of different types and each and every one has names. We are not going to study that, right? So just for your knowledge, this type of cracks that happen due to the water taking away the soil, that is called gully erosion, right? That is just for your knowledge. Now, soil erosion we are going to learn in depth. It takes many years to form the upper layer. Now we have learned in soil formation, it takes millions of years in formation of that soil, because the bedrock has to come up and it has to come to the surface. Then factors like climate, wind, water, other forces will act upon it, break it into parts. Yes, break the stone into small parts, bedrock into, and then again continuously hitting it with water and other, for example, trees are growing, plants are growing, and they crush that small pieces into yet smaller pieces and finally into sediments, and that is how it takes millions of years to form soil. Now that soil has really good nutrients and minerals present in it, and that is taken away by the water. So it's quite a good loss. It takes many years to form the upper part of the soil. If the soil particles are carried away because of heavy rain or by stormy winds, the agricultural production decreases. This is the biggest loss to the farmer. Yes, if he is able to retain that soil, if he employ lots and lots of methods, ways to keep his soil in place, doesn't allow his soil to go away with wind or water. But then also we know human beings, we become quite helpless in front of nature. Sometimes nature acts so wildly. Yes, there is a huge flood, the farmer is just not able to do anything, and whole of the fertile soil is taken away from the top part of his farm. So next time he takes any crop, he will not have a good production, he will not have a good output, he will not have a good crop, because the soil misses those important nutrients and minerals. It is extremely necessary. That is why it becomes very, very necessary to maintain this upper layer of agriculture. You got to maintain it, because that is the only top soil that is available to us to take crop for our sustenance. So the soil erosion should be prevented. It becomes very, very necessary to conserve soil, to prevent the soil from going away, stop the erosion. So we know different methods have to be used at different places because the same type of soil is not there, the same type of factors are not there. So we use different methods to preserve and conserve the soil that we have. Now what are the measures? Measures to prevent soil erosion. Now what is the first measure? If something is growing on it, then the roots will keep on grabbing the soil and it will not allow the wind or water so easily to take away the topsoil. Control the grazing activity on the land, that is point number 1. Animals continuously, you keep on make them keep on grazing at one place. A little shoot of grass comes up, there is a cow to eat it, there is a goat to eat it. Now you don't allow the grass to grow, then how will the roots of the grass hold the soil? So do not continuously allow the cattle to graze over there. Find another place, allow the growth of the grass, right, so that it keeps on grabbing the soil and does not so easily allow the wind and water to take away. Yes, sometimes there is necessity to grow trees also. Yes, because the tree roots are bigger and they will help in catching the grabbing the soil. So control the grazing activity on the land. Next is plantation should be carried out in contour method in slopy region. Now plantation should be, what type of plantation should be there? In contour method. We'll have a pic also so that you know what that thing is. Now in the slopy region, for example, this is a hilly area. It has, say, this is quite an inclined one. Suppose it has a very gentle slope. It has a very gentle slope. So whatever rain falls over here is sure to run off like this, in this direction, right? When the rainwater runs off, it takes away the soil. It takes away the important topsoil which the farmer has tried to retain for quite a lot of number of years. So how should the farmer do crop over there? Yes, he should make contour like this. Whole of his soil, yes, he should not, if you have seen a field, you can see rows and rows like this. Yes, there will be lots of plants over here. Instead of vertical lining will allow the water to go in that line. But if he has horizontal lines, the water has to stop because the plants are there. The plants will not allow the water to take away the soil because the roots are grabbing the soil. So this is called contour plantation. So water will have to stop everywhere and the speed of the water will slow down. Yes, if the speed of water is slow, it cannot wipe away the topsoil. So in this way, wherever the slope is, contour farming should be done. Plant trees, this is the third point, plant trees in fallow land. Fallow land, for example, a small part of land that is fertile, but right now nobody is taking any crop on it. This season nobody is taking. So what happens? The soil which should be having crop on it, which does not allow the wind and water to take away the topsoil. Now because no crop is there, the soil is exposed to rain and water and air. So you should not keep a very good and fertile soil, you should not keep it empty. Yes, if you are not doing any agriculture, you should plant trees over there. Trees will help in grabbing the soil and will not allow erosion. Construct check dams where there are streams. This is the fourth point. These are the measures to prevent soil erosion. How will this happen? What are check dams? Yes, a river is flowing in a particular area. It's a very small river, right? River or stream. Yes, it's not such a big river. But what happens when rain comes? Rain brings in lots and lots of soil from everywhere and that soil is flowing in the river. Now, if that is not checked, checked means controlled. If that is not checked, you will, all the topsoil that has come from everywhere surrounding will continue going down and it will go waste. So, we need to make check dam over here which checks the flow of water. If in the small river we make lots of check dams, everywhere the water has to stop, accumulate, and according to the height of the check dam, and when it reaches that, then it can overflow. Again, when it comes over here, it has to stop, accumulate, again overflow, check. So these are called check dams. They are not big, quite big, and they are not that much expensive. Even the villages can do it on their own, right? But it helps the rainwater which is carrying lots of silt, which is carrying lots of topsoil. It can check both the speed of the water, and it can also not allow the water to take away the topsoil. So what happens is, water which is stopped over here, it seeps into the ground, and the topsoil you find gathered over here. You can use that topsoil, again you can put it in your field, yes, so that is replenished. So in this way, check dams help in two ways, right? They stop the flow of water, they allow the water to accumulate, they give a chance for that water to go into the ground and increase the underground water level. So this, the building check dams is very, very important for us. Cultivate very deeply in the field to reduce the speed of the water. This is the fifth point. Now, how will this happen? If this is the farmer's soil, he has taken a crop. Suppose this is the one of the plant, yes, of wheat. Then wheat plant do not penetrate too much in the ground. Yes, this happened because the farmer planted the seed quite near to the surface. Yes, he planted it over here. Instead of that, if he planted it deep, yes, the stem that needs to come out is quite longer and the roots will go deeper. Because the root is quite near, yes, the force of the water can take away that crop. But because the root is quite deep, the flow of the water, force of the water will not be able to take out that crop, and the crop will keep on resisting the flow. That means break down the speed of the water. It will also help the crop, and at the same time it will also not allow the rainwater to take away the crop. Now, the next topic is soil conservation. What do we know what is conservation? What is conservation? Use it wisely today and preserve it for the future generation. So, soil conservation means to prevent the soil erosion and to maintain its quality. This is the definition of soil conservation. Yes, you can put a star mark over here. Soil conservation. What does it mean? To prevent the soil from erosion and to maintain its quality. Soil conservation is directly connected to retain the soil particles. What is soil conservation? You do not allow the transportation of soil particles from one place to another. You stop it. That means it directly contains to retain the soil particles there, not allow it to go away. Soil is not the same everywhere, so soil conservation methods everywhere will be different. We learned there are 8 types of soil, and everywhere the quality of the soil is not the same. Even if the soil is same, the quality of the soil is not same everywhere. So different methods, because of the topography, somewhere there is a hill, somewhere there is a mountain, somewhere there is a slope, somewhere it's a depression in the ground. So we have different topography over there. So our methods for soil conservation should be different. Different remedies are used, then there are chances of floods which enhance the risk against lives and property. Different remedies are used. Yes, if they are not used, then what happens? The flood will come very easily, and then when a flood comes, we know there is quite a lot of loss to men and property, both. Thus, soil conservation is very, very necessary. Now, here is a pic to make you understand how soil conservation works. Now, if you see in this pic, there is no stopping to the rainwater that is rushing at quite a great speed because the slope is quite great. Inclination is quite more. So, it will just run off. Yes, it does not allow the water to seep into the ground. It does not allow because it runs down with great speed. There is no stopping to it. In the next pic, you can see there are ditches made over here. Ditches are made over here. Ditches are made. Khadda. स्लोप में खड्डा कर दिया है इधर ऐसे पैरेलल खड्डा कर दिया है बड़े बड़े डिचेस कर दिए है विद 8 to 9 feet deep and a little bit 1 or 2 feet wide. So when the rain water comes down the slope, first it has to fill up that ditch. If it is filled up, then it can go forward. It cannot just rush off. So what happens? Everywhere water is filled up in the ditches. When the water remains still, then it allows percolation or seepage of water can happen. If seepage of water can happen, that means here the groundwater will increase. Right? So it is helpful for the farmer. Where does the well get its water from? The groundwater. So if this thing is happening, then and then only we can have soil conservation. It prevents the soil from going away. At the same time, it allows the water to seep into the ground and increase the level of groundwater. The conservation of soil is strong necessity. Now what is the remedy to? Remedy, cure. By implementing these remedies, soil can be conserved. Now we are going to learn some remedies. The roots of the trees in forest cover hold up the soil particles. You know, trees that are in the forest, they are quite big and quite big, strong roots are there which keep on grabbing the soil. What is the lesson for us? Wherever soil keeps on moving, the topsoil keeps on moving, grow a tree so that the flow of water is reduced and the trees allow the particles to stick together. It will not allow the flow of water to take away the particles. Plant trees in the river gorges and on mountain slope. Yes, wherever mountain slopes are there, yes, plant trees over there because that is the place where that topsoil is taken away. Gorges. Gorges means whole of a rocky place is there. In between that, a river which has been flowing over there for thousands of years has made deep cracks in the rocks and that erosion is continuously happening. So wherever a soil is found over there, grow trees so that when the next flood comes, erosion does not happen. Where are the gorges found? For example, river Narmada, filled with river gorges. When it comes from MP to Gujarat, there are lots of gorges. It comes through a whole marble mine from MP, right? A series of trees should be grown near a desert region to prevent the winds with more velocity. It's a very important point. How does that happen? For example, this is the desert. Yes, complete sand is there, but here very rich fertile soil is there where we have crops. Now sand particles that blow with wind, because high velocity winds are over here in the desert. So what happens? Sand particles come and accumulate over here, which reduces the fertility of the soil, which is good. So what happens is, if we grow trees over here, these trees will stop the force of the wind, plus the sand particles will hit the tree and fall down over there, not allowing the particles to come and accumulate and spoil the soil which is behind those trees. So the series of trees should be grown near a desert region to prevent wind with more velocity. It will stop the advancing desert. The desert will not advance. If there is nothing to stop, then the desert will keep on growing. It will become bigger and bigger. But if it is stopped at proper place, then the desert cannot advance and the remaining land which is behind the desert, which is quite good, can be protected. Next, river floods should be controlled by diverting their flow in other rivers or in dry river beds. A very, very important point over here. Yes, a river which is flowing. During rainy season, the flood waters come up till here, both sides. But there is another river flowing over here which does not have water, enough water because of any reason. Then here a canal should be made, and when the rainwater increases over here, flood water increases, then the gate should be opened so that water flows from here. And there are many important things that you can do. You can take out canals from here and give to the fields which do not get water. There will be lots of villages, towns in between which will get water, right? So divert the flow of the main river to other rivers. You make a grid network, yes, interconnecting network, yes, in between two rivers, so that the harm that is caused by the floods can be reduced. Unrestricted pasturing, the cattle keep on eating, yes, the grass. If that is not restricted, that will expose the soil, yes, because grass now cannot grow, because whenever the cattle comes, it eat away the grass, and the grass cannot grow, so the land is exposed to air and water. Loosens the soil layer on the mountains, it should be prevented. Methods like horizontal cultivation, we have just explained that. Yes, instead of doing that vertical way of growing crops, if we make horizontal method of growing crops, water has to accumulate. It reduces the speed and does not allow the topsoil to be taken away. Terrace farms, etc., should be implemented. Terrace farm, if this is the slope, we cannot do agriculture over here, and the water, because the soil is quite fertile, but we are not able to do agriculture because of the crop. So what happens is, we make cuts over here. We make cuts over here. Yes. Now you have made a terrace. You have made a terrace over here because you have cut the soil and made flat land where you can do a small field. So water will keep on coming from one slope to another slope, another terrace, and so all the fields over here on this slope will have water, and you can take a crop. This is called terrace farming. Should be implemented. Humus content should be added to the soil. Now the rainwater takes away the rich, mineral rich topsoil, so the soil misses something. So every time you should be adding something to it. Yes, whatever minerals, nutrients are missing from the soil, you got to keep on replenishing it, refilling it, so that the soil remains, the quality of the soil remains good, and it gives us good quality crop. Humus content should be added to the soil which has lost its fertility. Now this is the pic of the terrace farming that we just discussed. You make terrace. This is the slope. So many terraces have been made. They are small fields, but lots of agriculture can be done over here. You see here, quite big, because the slope is here. Here the slope is quite small. So small farms are there, right? Little pieces of land are there, but it is a flat land on a slope, and so you can do agriculture. Paddy can be taken, because paddy crop, the plant needs to remain submerged in water for good healthy crop. So you get enough of that. Next, you can see this is contour plantation. Yes, if the slope is this way and you make vertical, then the water will easily flow away. But you make horizontal plantation over here, crop over here, the water has to stop at every point, and that speed control. Now here, if you see, this type of cropping, horizontal is not done, vertical is done, because this is a flat land and the soil, water does not have any slope to go away, so it will remain in the field. But here it is not possible. So in this way we can prevent the soil erosion. This is on a slope where a small stream might be flowing during the rainy season. Before the rainy season comes, you can see the villagers are just putting rocks over here so that water stops every time and the water is allowed to go into the ground. So in this way, with the help of some of the cures, we can prevent soil erosion. And with this, we complete the chapter. Map work for the chapter will be done later on with 2 or 3 geography chapters together. We'll be doing the map work. Thank you, students.